All right. Looks like we're live. Welcome, everyone, to the ninth Annual Symposium on Environmental Justice and Health Disparities, hosted by Dr. Shakobi Wilson, who's a director of the Center for Community Engagement, Environmental Justice and Health. My name is Vivek Ravichandran, and I'm a PhD candidate here at the center. And I have led a plethora of air quality monitoring projects with Dr. Wilson, many of which you all have heard about during the sessions earlier in the week. So this is the online format of a community science workshop where we will be discussing certain air quality sensors, low-cost air quality sensors that can be used to help achieve environmental justice. I want to apologize in advance for my voice. I'm still recovering from a sickness, non-COVID related, so I might go off camera shortly. But I wanted to briefly go over the objectives of this particular workshop. So I wanted to start by just exploring different types of air quality monitors. So this includes government monitors as well as low-cost monitors. We'll then reflect on the need for hyperlocal air quality monitoring to fill in data gaps. Now, I wanted to briefly demystify the term hyperlocal for the audience who might be watching on the YouTube live and Facebook live. This refers to a cluster of air monitors in a given community at the city block or tract resolution to account for block-to-block differences in air pollution that cannot be captured by government or federal grade monitors. After this, we'll then differentiate between mobile versus stationary monitoring and talk about the strengths and limitations of each before taking a closer look at the purple air monitor, which is a very common low-cost particulate matter sensor that has been deployed for various community-driven projects nationwide. We'll talk about how the purple air can be used to crowdsource data, how that data is publicly accessible, and how that data can be downloaded and used for change. Then we'll go over some other sensors that are in our toolkit that have been used to monitor various pollutants. And then we'll conclude with a Q&A. I think we'll have a lot more time because this is a workshop series that shouldn't take more than 45 minutes. So we'll have time for a very lengthy Q&A. So to begin with regulatory monitors, the EPA has been, the Environmental Protection Agency is the federal government agency that has been responsible for regulating 6 criteria air pollutants under the authority of the Clean Air Act. To do so, they've developed an air monitor network in the contiguous United States to monitor carbon monoxide, lead, sulfur dioxide, ozone, nitrogen dioxide, and particulate matter. Particulate matter is classified by its size gradient. The larger particles, such as PM10, include dust, pollen, mold, and other allergens. These are generally sneezed out of your respiratory tract through the mucociliary escalator. However, smaller particles, such as PM2.5, these are small enough to enter your lungs and penetrate deep into your bloodstream, and this leads to a wide array of both cardiovascular as well as respiratory health outcomes. And this leads to the health disparities that we observe in the United States today. While the government monitors are very accurate and they meet the quality assurance protocols, they're very sporadic. So for example, here in the state of Maryland, there are only 24 government air monitoring stations for the entire state. In other mid-Atlantic states, such as New Jersey, there are only 30 or so. So you can see why this is a problem, because these government monitors are also located far away from environmentally burdened communities, or communities that fit the criteria as environmental justice communities. So you have a huge opportunity for misclassification error, which is where the air quality index or the air quality levels that you believe you're exposed to based on what you're seeing on your phone is not entirely accurate. And this is even further exacerbated by the fact that at the city block resolution, studies have shown that the air pollution, your exposure could differ by 200 to 400%. To think about this, we look at the San Francisco Bay Area here on the right. These are various districts, and as you can see in these maps, even at the block level, you have these massive gradients. So this particulate matter, black carbon, which is a constituent of particulate matter, but also indicative of diesel exhaust, as well as other gases. So simply put, we can't rely on government monitors solely to give us our air quality data. So there's a need to supplement this with low-cost, community-driven efforts. Now, I want to briefly touch on this concept of the path of least resistance. This was actually an environmental justice paper that was published several years ago. And what it suggests or showcases is that various pollutant entities, facilities, and industry use the path of least resistance. So they place their facilities in low-income communities of color at a disproportionate rate. And they do so because they perceive these communities to have limited mobilization and resistance against these practices. Additionally, they host various hearings or work group sessions during business hours, which is convenient to them. However, it isn't for certain individuals who might come from low-wealth families and might not be able to participate. So why is this a problem? Well, you have a lack of meaningful engagement of the community itself, which is one of the core tenets of environmental justice. So you have an environmental injustice right here in this process. So I've sort of presented the problem, and now I just want to go over one of my solutions, our solutions, which is the low-cost monitors. So federal grade monitors, government monitors, operate and owned by federal agencies, state governments, can cost over $10,000. Not affordable at all. Low-cost monitors can be in the $200 to $500 range, sometimes a little bit more expensive. But the great thing about this is academic institutions can put this into their budget and purchase them in bulk and provide them at little to no cost to community partners. So with this, we're able to provide greater spatial resolution. We can have 10, 20 monitors in one community to really ascertain those block-to-block differences in air pollution. Additionally, these sensors come equipped with calibration formulas that have been proven in the literature, so users can apply this correction and make sure that the data that they collect is on par with federal grade monitors. As you can see in this figure on the top right, various low-cost sensors have been strongly correlated with government monitors. So to put this into perspective, a correlation value of 1 indicates a perfect linear relationship. Really hard to get that, but these monitors have displayed a correlation of value of close to 0.9, 0.95, which is phenomenal. Additionally, these monitors have a cloud-based system, so the user can upload their data directly to an open source cloud or open source software, and other users can access that data and be able to use that to fill in data gaps and implement change. So there are two types of low-cost monitors. One is stationary and one is personal, also known as mobile. So we're just going to go through each of these and briefly discuss their strengths. Personal monitors, as their name suggests, these are portable devices. So users can wear them around their neck as a lanyard, on a belt buckle, and I like to call this process environmental storytelling. Now, I'm not a journalism expert at all, but we are working with the School of Journalism here at the University of Maryland to provide this storytelling or documentary-based approach. So users can wear this monitor and take it with them when they drop their kids off at work, or at school, excuse me, when they go to work, when they go drop their kids or take their kids to the playground. So it really gets at what is the air quality in places that we where we work, sleep, eat, breathe, pray, etc. And these are just 3 examples of personal monitors. So on the top left, you have the Aircast and Airbeam. Looks a lot like the Snapchat logo for those of you that use social media technology, but it measures particulate matter. So as I mentioned previously, and I think we have some new folks joining on the YouTube Live, the particulate matter is one of the EPA's, or Environmental Protection Agency's, criteria air pollutants. So it is enforceable. The Flow and AtmoTube are these cylindrical devices that you see, very tiny, and they measure particulate matter as well as volatile organic compounds and other hazardous air pollutants that have been shown to be carcinogenic. And we'll talk more about some of these monitors in the upcoming slides. But moving on to stationary monitors, these, as their name indicates, are fixed in place. So you kind of just set them and leave them, and they can collect data for up to 2 years or so unattended. You can monitor them via a separate software to make sure that they're up and running well, but they provide very good, high quality, real-time data. What does real-time data mean? This means that it collects data and updates it every 2 minutes onto its cloud-based software. And these are just a couple examples of stationary monitors that Siege has used or plans to use through its community air monitoring processes. The first one is the C12 black carbon monitor, which is on this tripod on the left. It looks a little bit like a treasure chest, and this measures, as I said, black carbon, which is an indicator of diesel exhaust. Okay, I see some questions in the chat. I will try to answer. I'll try to take a little break during my presentation to answer some of those, but I will answer them as soon as I can. And the second monitor is the PurpleAir. This measures particulate matter, and this one has 2 chambers, as you can see on the right, the 2 blue boxes. And this basically gives you 2 readings. And this ensures that the monitor is collecting valid data. So if one of those values is very high or very low, then you know something's up with the device. And the last one here is the QuantAQ MODULAIR. For those of you who attended the Monday session, we had a speaker who's the CEO of this particular company, QuantAQ, and he provided a great presentation that goes in depth into what the QuantAQ MODULAIR does, how it can be set up, and how the data can be used and how accurate that data is. So this is similar to the black carbon monitor, where you kind of hoist it up in place. You can put on a tripod or you can mount it, whatever is most convenient and whatever works for that particular site. So a little bit more about the PurpleAir. So as I mentioned, it provides high resolution data, updates every 2 minutes onto what's known as the crowd map. We'll talk about the crowd map a little bit more on the next slide, but it also collects data on humidity and temperature. So with urban heat islands, with issues of heat exhaustion and air pollution and sort of that intersectionality, it really allows us to assess that further as well. This is just some important information to note about the PurpleAir. Obviously, this is a virtual session, so unfortunately, I can't kind of pass around a PurpleAir and show everybody, but it has 2 built-in chambers, as I mentioned. So those 2 built-in chambers allow for what we refer to as inter-rater reliability. Basically, is the sensor working well? And if not, then it might need to be replaced or calibrated. To set up this device, you need a few pieces of equipment, or infrastructure. One is stable Wi-Fi because it uploads to the cloud. You also want a external power supply. So this is an outdoor air monitor. So you want to have some sort of power supply on the exterior of the building that you're trying to monitor. And lastly, when you're deploying these devices, you can use zip ties to fasten them into place, or you can use power tools to fasten them into place. So whatever is convenient and whatever really works for that particular location. It's really a case-by-case basis. And we as academic researchers, we would come and scope out the area, look at your residential property to see, what the best course of action is. And we have contractual documents that indicate what we need to do, what we expect from you as host volunteers, and how the maintenance process will unfold. So on this slide, again, this is a virtual session, so it's a little difficult to kind of walk through it when you don't have your device with you. But essentially, if you have your phone, you would plug in the PurpleAir monitor, so it comes with a power cord. Once you plug it in, the PurpleAir should begin to light up. So you look at the underbelly of the PurpleAir to make sure that it lights up properly. And then what you're going to do is go to your Wi-Fi settings. And similar to when you're connected to the Wi-Fi for the first time, you'll see an option called PurpleAir, followed by a 4-digit code. And that is the serial number of your PurpleAir. So it'll be shown on the PurpleAir device itself. Once you do that, this window on the right should pop up. and then you're going to connect to your local Wi-Fi. So it is a two-part process. You're going to connect to your local Wi-Fi, hit save, and then you're going to be able to see the purple air start streaming, and then you can register the purple air actually on the map, and then you can make that data publicly accessible. So that's really all there is to the registration and installment process. But when it comes to the implementation of a hyperlocal network, the first thing we're going to do is, once you get the monitor out of the box, you want to co-locate it with these government monitors. So on the top right, we have a picture of a co-location process where we place these monitors at a government facility. We at the University of Maryland, we work with the Maryland Department of the Environment. We have a partnership with them, and they grant access to all 24 of their government monitoring stations in the state. So we normally go to the Beltsville location because it's the closest one, and we place them up, and they collect for about 2 weeks. And then once that's complete, we go back, we bring them down, and then we look at the data to see how correlated our data is with that of the government monitors. That's kind of a quality check right there. After that, we redeploy them at our community locations. And these are just a few bullet points or key takeaways just to ensure that there are no confounders to the data. So you want to keep the monitor away from direct sunlight. However, recent purple air iterations, the newer monitors actually come with a solar radiation shield, I believe. And other monitors do automatically come with a solar radiation shield. So they are weatherproof. This was an older slide from one of the previous models. You also want to make sure that there aren't any confounding pollution factors. For example, barbecues, 4th of July fireworks clearly affect the PM readings. You'll see elevated spikes. So we want to make sure that we communicate as the researchers with the community members to identify particular days or instances which might explain these peak readings. Of course, with the Canadian wildfires, we saw lengthy periods of PM values that were well above the EPA's guidelines. So we were able to infer that as well. And then when you set up the device, we want to make sure that it is not an eyesore for the resident. We want to make sure it's neat. So we sort of tuck the power cables to the side. We use zip ties to make sure that it's right up against the wall and not an eyesore at all. All right, so I think the best course of action now would be to kind of go through the purple air crowd map and then talk about how that data can be analyzed. So I'm going to go ahead and share my other screen. Okay. All right, so I think folks can see my screen here. This is the purple air crowd map. So this is where all the purple airs that are registered are publicly accessible to anyone. And I'm gonna zoom out, and I hope the StreamYard's able to handle the purple air crowd map here. Sometimes it might lag. But as you can see, there are a lot of purple airs. There are about 200 in Maryland alone. And then if we zoom out, I just want to give everyone a glimpse of the nationwide scale of the purple air monitored initiative. So we can definitely see various hotspots. In California, there were some wildfire concerns. Up here in Canada, of course, you have that. And of course, some of values might not be 100% accurate. So this is would obviously not be fully accurate, and that might be a case-by-case basis again. But let's zoom down into Maryland. And if folks want to practice using the crowd map, all you need to do is go to the URL and type in map.purpleair.com. And because I've used the purple air before, it automatically takes me to Maryland because it knows, I guess, my location. But you can try this on your own and look at purple airs that are nearest to the city that you're currently watching this from on the stream. I like to go directly into Cheverly, Maryland, because this is one of our hyperlocal networks and partnerships that we have. And so each circle corresponds. Hope folks can still see me on the StreamYard. Okay, just let me know if you can in the chat, and I'll try to fix that. But each circle corresponds to the air quality index. So green indicates good air. Yellow is moderate, but still meets the EPA's threshold. Anything that's not yellow, orange, red, purple, or maroon, I think that's the color maroon, yes. This is hazardous and needs to be mitigated. So right now in Cheverly, the air quality is generally good. You'll see that there are some monitors that have a gray circle. And so that gray circle indicates that the air monitor is down and needs to be monitored or replaced or fixed. And then our team will get a notification and we'll communicate with the resident or with the property to make a site visit and rectify that. But the main takeaway here is if you click on a circle, and you can do this for your city, you'll see that there's the name. So when you register the sensor, you have the opportunity to name it whatever you want. In this case, we use the nomenclature Cheverly AQM for the Cheverly air quality monitoring, and then the W indicates the ward number. So in this case, we're looking at Ward 3, and this is the first monitor installed in Ward 3. That really allows us to keep track of all our air monitors on site. So I'll click on this one, and you'll see that there are various averages. So there's the current air quality in terms of the raw PM values. And then there's the 30-minute averages, hour averages, and daily averages. And the purple air gives you a nice little map. A chart like this, trend line, which is always great to see. When you click on the settings here, several options are here. The first is the data layer. So right now, we're looking at the raw PM 2.5. The reason it's called the raw PM 2.5 is because, as I mentioned previously in my earlier slides, each low-cost monitor needs to be auto-calibrated to ensure that it's on par with government or gold standard monitors. Because so many purple airs have been used, the EPA has developed a nationwide correction. So you can actually provide that directly right here. And so what this does is you use the correction. These are the values that you see. And if you use the correction, you'll see that those values will change or should change. I guess in this case, they already have the correction applied, so they don't. But if you were to refresh that, you can look at the differences between the raw and corrected. And then you can look at your averaging period. I like to use 1 hour averages because that allows me to look at differences by rush hour versus off peak and really get a very, very good temporal resolution. And so what you can do is you can play around with this. So if you click on another circle, you can do the same thing. Excuse me. You can just go here and then you can change this to, there's so many variables. There's the temperature as well, degrees Celsius, degrees Fahrenheit. There's the air quality index itself. So it converts the PM value to an air quality index. And then if you click on the hamburger sign down here, let's see, you can actually download the image and you can download the data as a CSV file. So this can definitely be plugged into any reports. Very easy, easily accessible. And I think it has a fairly straightforward user interface. But when you download the data as a CSV, this will pop up. So I'm going to go ahead and change my screen share. See if I can do this. Okay, share screen. And then we have our raw, our download. I hope folks can see this on the StreamYard. I think so. So for this is what you will see when you download your data. You won't get this chart. I created this as an example, but there are a few columns that pop up. The first is the date and time. So this, I looked at hourly averages beginning in September of 2023, so this month. And then these are the two chambers of the purple air that I talked about. So there's two chambers that give you readings for the PM 2.5. And as you can see, they're very close to each other, which is good. That means that the monitor is working well. And you can find the overall average if you wanted to. You can look at the median, max. There's so many formulas you can use in Excel to perform data analysis. But the one thing I like to do is pull up a trend line. And so you can do that in Excel by just inserting a chart. So you can click on this, for example. So you have your date and time on the x-axis, and then you have your PM 2.5 on the y-axis. And then you can clean up your axis titles accordingly. Hit insert, and then you just insert a chart, and then it'll pop up again. So something like that. Okay, I'm going to return to the presentation mode now. I hope that was a helpful demonstration of the download tool within the Purple Air crowd map. Okay, let me pull up my presentation. Okay. So we talked about the data analysis very briefly as well. So I went through this process. You can import that Excel sheet that I mentioned into a statistical tool of choice. And in addition to just such as mean, median, and trend lines, you can also conduct more in-depth differential statistics. So you can look at the differences by the time of day. You can look at the differences by weekday versus weekend. You can look at seasonal variation, and there's so many different types of tests. I don't want to get into the weeds of that, but R, SAS, Python, and Tableau have been phenomenal tools to look at the data and to produce very good visuals as well. All right, so that is the Purple Air monitor. And now I want to jump into some of the other monitors that we at Siege have either used or intend to use in the future. The first is the Clarity node. This is a self-powered air pollution sensor. So it has its own source of power, and it measures, in addition to PM 2.5 or the particulate matter, it also measures NOx. So this is another criteria air pollutant that's regulated by the EPA. Additionally, this monitor is indeed weatherproof, so you don't have to worry about keeping away from the direct sunlight, worry about rain or other factors that might interfere with the readings. And when we deploy the Clarity node, there's just a few things you need similar to the Purple Air. You'll just need a screw or a zip tie for fastening the device into place. And you want to attach a mountain bracket to the node as well, so you can place it 8 to 10 feet above the ground. And we have at Siege environmental engineers and other experts who know what sort of equipment to purchase and how to set this up, so it shouldn't be a burden for the residents themselves. But this is a monitor that we have used at Siege. We've purchased these for one of our community-based air monitoring grants in the communities of Cheverly, Maryland, which borders Washington, D.C. to the east. And this site has been the, proposed location for various industrial sites. And I think this kind of answers one of the questions in the chat that I see, which mentions which community do you think is mostly impacted from the air quality issue today. So I'm just going to boost this to the screen and try to answer this mid-presentation. So which community do you think is mostly impacted from the air quality issue today? Speaking for Maryland, so I've worked with various mid-Atlantic communities. I think Cheverly, Maryland is a big one. There is some recency bias behind this because we did have a session yesterday afternoon. We had the mayor of Cheverly speak. We had two residents speak. And we had one of our government partners speak. And it just really amazed me how much industrial activity was present. And then this idea that there's a bus yards facility that's proposed to be placed in the community on the industrial corridor because of the fact that it is cheaper to place that facility in Cheverly. It would cost, I think the mayor mentioned, $10 million, whereas that same facility to be placed in DC would cost $40 million to be placed in Montgomery County, which is to the north, to the north of Cheverly, would cost $30 million. So I think Cheverly is one that's up there. A couple others are Curtis Bay in Baltimore, which has been victim to a lot of coal dust. And I've also worked with communities in the South Ward of Newark, New Jersey, and they're part of the goods movement chain. So there's a lot of concerns over that as well. So I hope that sort of answers your question, and I can, feel free to ask a follow-up in the chat, and I'll try to answer that as I go through my presentation. So I'm going to hide the comment for now. Okay, go back to my presentation. But yeah, so this was part of the air monitoring grant, and this device, it says it's portable, but we like to use it as a stationary device. It's just a little bit bigger. We would mount it on a tripod, or we would place it nearby at a residence, elevated to some capacity, and it uses a tape-based measurement for black carbon. So this is I don't want to overly complicate things. The main takeaway from this slide is this is the inside of the the MET1 instrument C12 black carbon monitor, and this is what it looks like on the bottom when it's closed. Basically, you have this tube and this bulb, as you see on the bottom, and you just fix them together. So you just twist them in, and then you apply filter tape. So the filter tape comes with the device, and on the top, you'll see that you can just put it on the left side. And then once you turn the device on, which we'll talk about on the next slide, that tape will begin to roll over to the right, and that's where the black carbon will deposit onto, and that's where you get the black carbon readings. Similar to the PurpleAir, you want to plug this in so it has a power cable, so you need a power supply. However, this device has built-in settings, so you do not need stable Wi-Fi, which has been a little bit of a problem with some of our PurpleAir monitors because some areas are great for monitoring, but do they have Wi-Fi to support the capacity and the infrastructure? And this is on the inside of the device itself. It just kind of lets you know if it's collecting data. So once you plug in the device and once you put the filter tape in, you want to toggle this control switch right here for it to turn on, and then the light on the first LED panel will turn green, and that'll indicate that it is sampling. As you can see on the bottom right, it is sampling. If it's off, it's not sampling. So that's how you know if the device is working or not. And then there's other checkpoints as well, but I don't want to get too deep into those, but those just indicate some source of failure. So overall, you want to make sure that when you open up the device, when you're checking on it, that this number 1 is green. That's the main takeaway from this slide right here. So similar to the PurpleAir, the MET1, the company that produces this, that manufactures this monitor, uses a cloud service for storing and viewing the data. So they offer a customizable, or they offer a private link. So when we purchase the C12s, each C12 monitor in the package comes with a manila folder that contains a private link. So only those that have access to the link can view, chart, download, and export the data. And this is great, I think, for privacy concerns too, because some folks and residents have had concerns over backlash from industry if industry were to see a sudden network of monitors right outside of their facility, fence line to their facility. So this is great. Additionally, if you're unable to get data to go directly to the cloud, the unit does hold over 2,000 data points in case of modem failure. So there is a backup plan involved as well. And it can store data for well over 2 years. So again, it's sort of a set in place device, but it should be known that we do need to replace the tape. So you need to replace the tape every 2 months or so. So the PurpleAir, which we talked about earlier, can be set sort of set and leave it, but this device does need more frequent maintenance. But it's very useful because it collects data on black carbon and allows for source apportionment, so you can really get at what is driving local sources of pollution. And this is just a link to the software that one can use, and there is a sort of an instruction manual on how to do this, but I don't want to get too deep into this as well. It kind of gives you access to the dashboard and the cloud site. All right, so that was those were some of our stationary monitors, and now I want to talk about some of the mobile monitors that Siege has been using and implementing. The first is the AtmoTube. This device measures volatile organic compounds, and volatile organic compounds have been linked to atmospheric ozone depletion, cancer, and they're chemicals that are emitted from various sources, such as mobile sources. So users can wear this device, and it records data every second, and it uploads this data directly to your mobile device via an Excel spreadsheet. So you can take it up and down a street if you wanted to. You can take it fence line to an industry, and it really allows you to collect more data without any logistical constraints. It also measures atmospheric pressure, temperature, and humidity, which, again, when we talk about urban heat islands and these cumulative impacts that can lead to exacerbation of asthma and other health effects, I think it's really useful to have those other parameters. So when installing the AtmoTube, I'm assuming a lot of folks on the stream have a smartphone or either an Android or an iPhone. So you want to download the AtmoTube app, and this is what the app looks like for the iPhone and the Android. So it looks like this little mesh circle. So you're just going to tap Get when you go to the App Store, and it's free. So once you have the app, you'll get a screen that looks like this on the right. So you're going to tap the circle on the AtmoTube, as you can see here, and then an LED light will represent the current air quality score. So blue indicates good air, green is moderate, yellow is polluted, and then in the red range is extremely polluted. And then this is the dashboard on the app itself. Okay, so that was the AtmoTube, and sort of a sister product to that is the Flow. This device was manufactured by Plume Labs, and it also has an app associated with it, and also measures real-time data on VOCs, but also particulate matter and NOx. So you're measuring two criteria air pollutants that are enforceable, as well as the VOCs. Additionally, similar to the AtmoTube, the Flow also measures the air quality index. So it has this color-coded scheme where green is good, yellow is moderate, and then you have the unhealthy zone, similar to what the PurpleAir crowd map actually produces. The next monitor is the Aircast Airbeam. So this doesn't require any additional hardware like a smartphone, but it measures PM. So it's like I would say the mobile version of the PurpleAir. PM1, which are the ultrafine particles, PM2.5, which is regulated by the EPA and has been linked to various health disparities and health outcomes, and then PM10, which are the allergens in the air. It also measures temperature and relative humidity. So again, mobile version of the PurpleAir is what I like to call this. The good news is it's weather resistant, and users can map and graph measurements using the app on their phone or the Aircasting website. The newest version of the Airbeam, which Siege has not yet used but is planned to purchase, also includes an SD card, so the data can upload directly to that card, and this really allows it to operate in a standalone process without the need for a smartphone, as I mentioned. Okay, and the last air monitor that I'll be discussing here is the QuantAQ MODULAIR. This device is stationary. It measures all three forms of particulate matter, as well as ground level gas species. So you have a lot of CAPs, criteria air pollutants, that are being monitored, as well as meteorological parameters. So you have temperature, relative humidity, as well as wind speed and direction. That wind speed and direction really allows us, again, to get at source apportionment. So we can see where these pollutants are coming from based on those wind patterns. We can correlate temperature and humidity with air pollution to look at those cumulative effects. And these monitors have a very, very strong correlation with other monitors, so within themselves, as well as with particulate matter, monitors too, that are operated and owned by the state government. So again, that correlation value, which is very important to note. So to get started with this device, it's very similar to putting up a PurpleAir. So you can connect it to either your own solar, or you can use a power supply, and it can be deployed on a variety of areas. So you can apply it to street signs, you can put it on balconies and fences, etc., etc. So we have, again, these zip ties that are used to fasten it to place, and you can also move it fairly easily as well. So it's relatively mobile. So again, when you receive the device, this is what comes in the box. So you'll receive the actual sensor itself. You'll have the power supply and cable, and then you'll have these mounting hardware so that you can screw the device or fasten it into place. It also comes with an SD card, so the data can collect automatically to an SD card, and then users can extract that card and use a chip reader. So that's what we do at the university, to just read in the data manually without the need for Wi-Fi. Okay, so this is just the instrument layout, and I don't want to, again, go too deep into the weeds here, but it's good to know what is on the inside of the device. You may not need to necessarily touch this per se, but you have the battery, you have the power source, and then you have the SD card slit as well. So that's where the SD card can be extracted to look at the data manually. And to access this point, you'll have to remove the screws in the corners here. So again, when you want to install the device, you can use the mounting flanges as shown here. And then when you secure the device into place, you'll want to use higher tech zip ties. So the ones that aren't necessarily just purchased at Staples, but you might have to get the more durable ones to secure it onto a fence or post or other area of interest. And if needed, you might have to use screws as well. So at Siege, we again have environmental engineers, and a lot of academic institutions have the personnel that have experience with using power tools and being able to install these devices in the manner explained on the slide. So in terms of the data collection, as I mentioned, you have the SD card that allows you to collect it without the need for Wi-Fi. But if there is Wi-Fi, you can download the data directly from the QuantAQ Cloud console, similar to the PurpleAir Crowd Map, which makes it very much user-friendly. And then once you do that, you can download your data in an Excel format. You can import that into your statistical tool of choice, in order to perform further analyses. And so this is just how to access the Cloud Council. So you'll go to the website here, and then you'll have to create an account, which is free to do. And you can view the data in two ways. So you can view the charts of the data using the map, or you can click on the map and look at a detailed view of the raw data, as well as the final data. And the data is pushed to the cloud at a 1 minute time resolution. So very much in real time. All right, so that concludes my little workshop. Again, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds in terms of how to set up some of the monitors, but I did want to describe, how they can be used to achieve environmental justice, how we've used them before, and the strengths of each, so that, hopefully we can see the community-driven projects that we've done at Siege serve as a model for the rest of the United States. So with that, I'm gonna conclude my presentation. I think we're at 46 minutes, so we do have time for questions. And I think my room monitor will be able to boost them into the chat, from the chat. Thank you. Yeah, and feel free to use the comment section for any questions, and I'll try to boost them onto the screen. And I'll also put my email while folks are thinking of questions. I'll put my email in the chat as well, so that I can be contacted with additional inquiries after the And Bakula, are you still there? Okay. If there aren't any other questions, I think folks are kind of dropping off on the YouTube Live, on Facebook Live. I put my email in the chat, and I'm happy to discuss questions further with you all. I hope everyone enjoys the lunchtime session that we have, as well as our afternoon concurrent sessions. And I hope to see folks in person tomorrow as well, who are attending the Saturday event. So thank you all for listening to this session, and I look forward to conversing with you all later. Thank you.